being a leader comes with challenges. The Leading to Win podcast will help leaders make wise decisions by leading to win. Here's your host, Marty Haynes.
Welcome to Leading to Win, where our goal is to help you become a better leader. And today, we've got a staple to the program. We have Joanie Winters with us from Winters Law Firm. Joanie, as always, it is great to have you today. I'm looking forward to the topic we got today.
Thank you, Marty.
The topic, and I know we're gonna get these because probably HR business owners, this is one of those things they probably don't get up every day going, hey, I get to do these today. But we're gonna talk about writing performance evaluations to withstand a legal challenge, and that is down your avenue here. And so we're gonna pull out some points and kind of see what we can talk about here today. So I'm gonna just narrow this down to basic.
Okay.
What's an evaluation? What do we look for? What do we see? What goes on?
Okay, so a performance evaluation is really critical. To me, it's the most abused, misused, and underused management tool that we have in our business. Mm-hmm. It's the opportunity to sit with an employee and tell them their strengths, their weaknesses, their values, where they can maybe get some better skill sets, and we can help that with training. So it's an opportunity to sit with your employee and actually lead your employee to a higher level of professionalism and skill set.
Yeah. Okay. What, nobody likes to do this. I remember when I worked for a national insurance carrier, they bring you in, it's time for your yearly review, and you go in there and you sit down, even when you knew you had a fantastic year, just something about sitting there and hearing somebody say, well, here's what you did right this year, and here's what you might need to improve on. So those are some hesitations, some anxieties that people have on those types of things. Are there any kind of ways to make those off the top of your head easier for people like us?
Well, there can be. No one likes to hear that their dog isn't pretty. Okay, mm-hmm. So it is hard to tell someone that they're not doing a good job. But as a leader, that's our obligation, and you're doing an employee a disservice by not telling them that. Yeah. We can talk about this in a moment. I don't believe we should wait until the end of the year to actually do this. But when you do have the opportunity to evaluate someone's performance, you want to be honest without being brutal, mm-hmm. But you also want to be reiterating something that perhaps you've already talked to this employee about. So it's not you're sitting for the first time hearing that you are not getting reports in on time. You've already heard this from the boss. You've already been told. So it's just reiterating that, hey, this is really important, and I expect you to get these on time. Mm-hmm. Don't soften the blow, but be professional about it. This is not a dumping session. It's not an opportunity to talk mm-hmm. about things that happened in January and it's now December. But I don't believe in soft selling that. You really have to be honest with the employee, but it's also not a time to kick this person to the curb. That's not what this is mm-hmm. for. It's not a bully session.
Yeah.
It's a management professional discussion with an employee.
Now you kind of touched on it right there. What's your recommendation? Do you wait a whole year? Do you do some like some are doing check-ins along the line? You do it maybe once a quarter. What's kind of the best way that you think to do these are?
Marty, that's a great question, because you said yourself, no one likes to do these. Mm-hmm. So bad enough we have to do them on an annual basis. When I was in HR, and I would tell our supervisors, hey, we're going to do a performance evaluation, the whole room would groan. Mm-hmm. I'm a firm believer of at least twice a year, at least. And so we go from January to June, and we sit down in June, and I say, okay, Marty, I'm just thrilled to death with this program you've put together. It's very workable. It has brought in some additional revenue. But I think you've got some weaknesses on this side, on your timeliness, and perhaps maybe your reports could be tighter and sharper. And we have that conversation, and I say to you, there's a training program I might help you with those areas we've discussed that maybe need some tightening. and the company's willing to pay for it. And so we have that conversation, and it's not tied to money.
Mhm.
There's no raise discussed whatsoever. But I've now given you 6 months because the performance evaluation that happens in December could have a raise tied to it. You now have 6 months to fix those things I've identified with you in June. And so when we sit down in December, I can say, Marty, I'm so glad we talked in June because I've seen a market improvement in your reports. They're more timely, they're tighter, they're more informative, great detail in them. And so you can see the disconnect if we wait until December and I sit you down and say, your reports are not informative, they're sloppy, you spilled coffee all over the last one. And if you can get your supervisors to do them quarterly, all the better.
Mhm.
But here's my take on this, and this is something that I put into play with my employees. Every day you're evaluating performance.
Mhm.
Every day. Someone hands you a report, you either say, oh, you really need to fix this, or I need more detail, there's not enough in here. Or you tell that employee, great work, thank you.
Mhm.
Every day you're evaluating performance.
So I'm also hearing you say document, document, document.
Always. When I handle EEOC charges of discrimination or any kind of litigation, they are scrutinized. Performance evaluations are highly scrutinized. And so you want to be careful what you write in there because it could become an exhibit in a lawsuit. But you do want to be honest, professionally honest.
Mhm.
So yes, document, 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 and you should have the employee sign off on it. I believe there should be a caveat in there that says, not that I agree with what's in here, but rather this has been reviewed with me. And while my signature does not necessarily acknowledge that I agree, it does say that it's been reviewed with me. So some language to that effect that
Mhm.
all the employee is doing is acknowledging the review, not so much the
Right.
content.
Now, what do you do if an employee decides not to sign it? Do you just document employee refused to sign?
Yes, sir. Like any other document that employees refuse to sign, employee refused to sign, and then you initial it and date it. Doesn't make it go away.
Yeah. Okay. That is true. Now, what are some things not to discuss in evaluation?
Okay. So you have to be careful. You really should be factual. One of the things that I've heard supervisors go into is attitude. You have a bad attitude, um, or you have an attitude. Well, I have an attitude. I have a good
Mhm.
attitude.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
An attitude, if you say to someone, well, you have an attitude, Marty. I've seen you're slowing down lately. And I don't know, maybe it's because you just hit 60.
Mhm.
Wow. That has nothing to do with performance, the fact that
Yeah.
you just hit 60. If you're declining in performance, that's what we talk about. But we give you examples. Here's the decline I've seen. You're not making as many calls to clients. You're not writing as many policies. Whatever the
Mhm.
the metrics may be, I have examples. It's not just you have an attitude and you're slowing down.
Yeah.
So any kind of health issue, age, all of those things have nothing to do with performance. You had COVID in March, and I've seen a difference in you since then. Well, you having COVID in March has nothing to do
Mhm.
with performance.
Yeah.
So stick to performance, stick to facts.
And watch the vagueness, I'm assuming. Watch, because you mentioned attitude. That could be a lot of different things.
Sure, it could. And if you don't have examples,
Mhm.
then you really shouldn't be discussing a performance metric with an employee because the employee wants to know, well, how can you say my reports are timely? And if I have a list of dates that your reports were submitted late, that's evidence, that's proof. That says to you, I am paying attention and you are late. I'm not just speculating. Well, it seems like you're late.
Now, how do you get away from somebody has a great evaluation? How do you keep from implied promises of continued employment? I mean, they could have a great performance review, and things happen. You
Sure.
have to cut, lose a job, department closes, whatever it may be, and then you got an employee say, "Wait a minute, I was a good employee. You didn't keep me. Such and such was let go." I mean, how do you deal with that?
A couple things there. So your performance evaluation should have a will statement on it that's required under our statute, which is 41-1-110. It's required on documents we give to employees. So I would have that at will statement on your performance evaluation. I would not, during the evaluation, promise this employee, hey, if you continue like this, you'll likely retire from here. That's a promise.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We've got to be careful with making those kinds of statements. It's okay to say, you've done a great job this year. I look forward to working with you next year. That's not necessarily a promise. Yes, I do look forward to seeing you in 2022, but maybe just January 1 and then January 2, you leave or you get let go. Be very careful making promises and never, ever, ever say, if you keep up this performance, you'll have a job for life.
Yeah. Oh,
You
yeah.
just wrote a contract.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's some excellent points. Is there anything else that just stands out to you and says, look, we see this done wrong all the time? Is there anything else that just stands out to you?
Yes, one thing in particular, and we refer to it as the halo effect. So again, to your point that no one likes to do these, it's hard to say your dog is ugly, but there's a common theme where folks will check that middle box, which usually says meets expectations. That's kind of the C student. You're not doing badly, you're passing.
Mm-hmm.
But in my world, when I'm defending an EEOC charge and the judge looks at this employee who has repeatedly had meets expectation ratings, well, the judge and the jury, if it's a jury trial, says, this person was meeting your expectations. Why did you fire them?
Right.
Must have been because they're a female and being pregnant or whatever the reason may be, it's being alleged. But if that person's meeting expectations, it makes a hard argument as to why you let them go. It also, going back to my HR world, so if you're a supervisor and all of your employees meet expectations, that says to me, you aren't doing your job.
Right.
Because someone on your watch should be excelling. Somebody should be exceeding expectations. And if they're not, then I'm going to come down on you on your performance evaluation because you're the leader.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that happens all the time.
Okay. You know, that's, I feel for, we deal with HR all the time. And you know, it is sometimes can be a thankless job because there's just so much involved in what they have to do from day to day. And this is one of those, you know, and unfortunately, you know, somebody probably passed on the job of doing those evaluations. So, you know, any kind of insight like this is always good to point those things out, especially when you see things from day to day. So, so as we kind of wrap this up today, are there anything else that stands out to say, you know, watch for this? We see a lot of this, and with EEOC, we kind of run into this as well. Is there anything else to wrap this up today?
Other than, I guess I would leave you with this, Marty, that I don't believe that companies should ignore this really, really solid management tool. Sometimes because they are not liked by supervisors, they are time consuming, and it does take a lot of not just HR's time, but the manager as well. But if they're used correctly, they're a great management tool, and that shouldn't be overlooked.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, good deal. Well, Joanie, as always, I really appreciate you joining me today. This, as always, some good information. You know, we have a world full of information, but sometimes knowledge and wisdom is lacking, and things like this, I think, really help our clients be able to do what they need to do and be successful every day. So again, thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Always a pleasure, Marty.
All right. Well, everybody else, we hope this was beneficial to you today. And thank you for joining us on Leading to Win. You have a good day.